He he is Dr. Tabat, a Nigerian medical doctor currently practicing in Australia. Dr. Tabat is from Kaduna State and obtained his MBBS from the University of Jos, which is where I also obtained my own MBBS. So I'm happy to be seeing someone from University of Jos. He completed his house job at the 44 Nigerian Army Reference Hospital, Kaduna, before working in private practice in Kaduna, and later at the Federal Medical Center, Jalingo. In 2021, he relocated to Saudi Arabia to continue his medical career in April 2025. He successfully transitioned to Australia, where he now practices. So we have a lot to learn from him, going to Saudi first and then Australia. That's just amazing. So, beyond his clinical work, Dr. Tabat is passionate about mentoring African doctors through his YouTube channel. He provides practical guidance and first-hand insights on Australian medical pathway, helping many healthcare professionals navigate the process of relocating and practicing in Australia. So, if you want to just check out his YouTube, subscribe, please. That would be great. Let me just say the name. So, Dr. Tabat's Takes. Dr. Tabat Takes. So that's Tabat apostrophe S, then Takes, Takes. So you can just check him out on YouTube. Kindly subscribe, please. I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of things to glean from his wealth of knowledge. He does expert videos on medical practice, medical school tips, housemanships, and all the works really, and especially your international journey. So kindly join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Tabat as he shares his journey and valuable insights on the Australian pathway for doctors. With a round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Tabat. We are happy to have you here.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's happy to be. It's really a pleasure to be here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay, thank you for that. Grace, so you're a Josite too. That's
I
good.
am.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an honor to be here. That I don't take this for granted, and this usually shows that one is doing the right thing, and that was the intention. The whole point of the channel then was to just save people the stress of what I went through. And it's part of what we're going to discuss today because part of the reason why we struggle is the information. And I really struggle to get that. So I am happy that at least I have helped a couple of people and I'm also getting the opportunities, especially on platforms like this, to communicate and share. So it's nice for me to be here. Thank you all for joining. Let's just go straight to it so I don't waste your time and we could really discuss further about this. I'll just share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. So I'll start with this. Well, that means that we have a lot of non patriotic Nigerian doctors. Yeah, it's painful. It's a very painful thing to behold, but it just shows you the decay. I thought I left Nigeria when things were bad, but compared to what's happening now, it's really sad. And this, with the fact that the government isn't really doing anything much to make people want to stay, I totally understand why even doctors that are actively training would want to leave their training and just move somewhere, even if it means them not getting into training. But part of the discussion here, especially for the fact that most of you are in active internal medicine training, right, could also not just regress, but somehow come in and continue your training and progress in your career. This is something that Australia offers. So we're going to talk about not just moving, but practicing in Australia because movement generally is a different thing. There are many doctors that have immigrated or migrated to different countries in the world and don't practice because most times for most countries, before you can practice, you have to get their license and everything. And so this discussion is not just moving here, it's about how you come here and practice as a medical doctor in Australia. And for the fact that some people like us are here means that anyone can be here. So let's talk a bit about Australia. The thing about Australia, first off, is that information about Australia is not really what would I say? It's not really as abundant as the other countries like the UK, US, and Canada. So, and you get why. Part of the reason is for the fact that there, I think among all these four countries, Australia has the lowest number of Nigerian doctors. The UK, based on research, has the most. I think it has around 20,000 practicing Nigerian doctors. That's followed closely by the UK, which has about 10 to 15. Then Canada comes third, which has nearly 2,000, and Australia has less than 1,000. And the reason for that is just that, first off, the US has always been the place that initially most of the professionals go to. It was in the past few decades that people started getting a bit more interested in the UK. And that was coupled with the fact that it's pretty straightforward to go. And compared to the other ways, it's the cheaper route to go through and also the most straightforward when it comes to training and becoming a specialist. Then another factor will also be that because there are more people in the US and the UK, there tends to be more information. You tend to meet more people that you could talk to and could guide you appropriately, which is something that Australia doesn't have as much. And I could tell you that for me to even get the information then was really a struggle. I remember been speaking with some in a group while I was still in Saudi Arabia because I wanted to go to Australia right from time. And part of the reason is that I am married, I have kids, and if I was a single person, I don't mind jumping from country to country. That's fine, something that I could bear. But then if you're a family person, you also have to consider your family. So you want to be somewhere that you know that you're not under any pressure to move quickly, which is something that Australia gives. Australia is quite family friendly, I can tell you that. And they are very particular about work life balance too. So that's one of the very good benefits of being in Australia. It's difficult to enter into, but seriously, it's worth it. And it provides an exceptional healthcare ecosystem. Yeah, so you come here and start dealing with work class stuff. I think I would have had a very huge culture shock if I moved directly from Nigeria to Australia. Because I remember when I first saw their cannula, hey, I nearly disgraced myself, despite the fact that I had been in Saudi Arabia for about 3, 4 years then. So the thing just has, when you just finish, like when you cannulate, as you're withdrawing the needle, it has a seal that automatically just covers that sharp point. I nearly shouted, I was like, you're not even scared of any kind of needle prick when it comes to cannulation. And those kind of cannula now, if you want to buy them in Nigeria, it's money. They even tell you that you can only use those on VIPs alone or something like that. But that's something as simple as a cannula. Many procedures or many interventions that we see that look very theoretical. Someone's mic is on. Uh, so many of the interventions we see that are theoretical, you get to meet them. In fact, it's one of the things that limits many specialists too, because now you get the opportunity to work with these what would I call them? These gadgets or these devices, and you just know them theoretically. You get to see them now, and how to apply them might be a problem for you. So Australia is quite, I would say professionally, it helps. It's for me, not just me, but it's somewhere that you could really come in, progress if you know the right moves, my right moves to make, which is not as difficult, and also have a very healthy balance, work-life balance and family life too. But the main hindrance is just the information. And I talked about why Australia, compared to the other three countries, tend to have sparse information is that there are fewer people that have moved here. And so fewer info you get, especially when it comes to navigating the exams. So Australia, like the other countries, you need to sit for the exams normally, and understanding these pathways usually the challenge that comes, and then getting people that are in Australia to share this with you is another challenge again. So as I said earlier, these are the two advantages, the clinical and career growth that you get, which I would tell you that the country is not racist compared to the other ones. It's not racist. Australia is an immigrant country. The thing you have to understand is that the main people in Australia are the Aboriginals and Torres Straits Islanders that were here. So the Caucasians were moved. They came in here from majorly the UK. So any white person you meet here, despite the fact that they have been the one that have developed the system, they are also immigrants. I have interacted with a lot of whites here, and you're surprised to find out that even when they speak or sound Australian, they'll tell you, no, I'm from the UK, I'm from this place, I'm from this place. So it's either they are the direct migrants or they are children of migrants. So with that in place, it's difficult for everybody. Just knows, like, we just come here. You understand? So they're not. It doesn't mean that they aren't racist. Everywhere has people that have these issues, but it's not really that obvious or overt like that. I can tell you that. Then quite good compensations too. They are very particular about work-life balance. So before I even came online, I just got an email because I had asked for a leave sometime this week and it was being approved. It's a leave request to go write my exam, and I'll be away for a couple of weeks. And it just got approved. They're really supportive when it comes to that. This is quite difficult to get in other parts of the world, even Nigeria, that we know. We just heard the unfortunate news about a couple that died after seeking for a sick leave for about 3 weeks. And that's really sad. So, Australia, I'll tell you this, that it's a very good place to go to. So going to the steps, I will say that there are basically three ways to come to Australia and practice as a doctor. But irrespective of the steps, you need to make this particular step. This one is the one that is universal, irrespective of the pathway you're using to come to Australia. Are you guys still seeing my slides?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
seeing.
okay. 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 And you're hearing me loud and clear, right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So the thing is that the first thing you have to do is to verify your medical certificates. So that means you should have been a medical school graduate. You should have graduated. That's one thing that stands it that makes PLAB to be a bit advantageous. PLAB and the USMLE, you could attempt them as students, but Australia will need you to verify your result, that means your certificate. That means that if you've not graduated, you can't even sit for the exams in the first sense. So you should have graduated, gotten your medical certificate, and then you verified via the ECFMG or EPIC portal. The good thing about the ECFMG and EPIC portal is that most of the Western world use this particular body to verify their result, their certificates. So that means if you've had it, if maybe you want to move to another Western world, you don't need to restart this again. Your certificate has been verified, so you could ask Epic or CFMG to just forward it to whichever body you want. So if there are some of you that had maybe started the PLAB pathway or the USMLE pathway or the MCCQE pathway, and you had already done this, it means that you don't need to restart again. You just send an email to them to tell them to forward your credential to the to AMC itself. But normally, before you do that, you must have established the AMC online portfolio, and that's the first step. And unlike the other ones, the other accounts, AMC portfolio costs money. It's not free, and it costs around, let's say, 650 Australian dollars. For the sake of maths, I would say that every Australian dollar is equivalent to 1,000 Nigerian naira. So that means that if you want to start this pathway, you have to keep around 700K just to open the AMC portfolio. And then the ECFMG verification, for those that haven't done it at all, you need around, they normally to set up the account is 150 US dollars. And I think US dollars is around 1,500 or so. I'm not sure, you do your maths. So to open up the account is 150 US dollars. And then for every credential you're going to upload, it's $100. So your MBBS certificate is $100. That's $250. If it's just your MBBS certificate that you're uploading, then that means that you're paying $250. If you have a fellowship or any qualification that you think is relevant, is for each of them is an extra dollar, an extra $100. Then another thing will be that many of our schools nowadays, unfortunately, need you to pay them too before they're able to forward or verify your credential to Epic. So Epic will contact the schools, and the schools have to respond. And many times, for most schools, you would have to pay. I didn't know that even my school usually pays too. So when I uploaded mine and I didn't hear from Epic. When I reached out to them, they said my school hasn't responded. So I contacted someone who said that, yeah, now you pay money. So I had to contact someone there, and they connected me to the right person, and I paid the money. And then, like after a few days, they had already responded to. So that means that you have to also find out from your school how much it costs for them to respond to Epic. So, irrespective of the three pathways which we're going to talk about just now, you must do this: open an AMC portfolio and and then do your credential verification via ECFMG. So the first of the three pathways is the standard pathway. So the standard pathway is for, or let me briefly talk about the competent authority pathway first. Yeah, the competent authority pathway, which is the one that you don't need to write any exams at all. It's the one that you have the qualifications, you have both the licensee and the minimum exposure in countries that Australia considers competent authorities. So there are 6 countries that are in that Australia recognizes as competent authorities. They include the US, the UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Ireland. Okay, the five. There are 5 actually. So these 5 countries are the ones that are considered competent authorities. So that means that if you had either graduated and have had at least 12 months of supervised practice in these countries, you are eligible for the competent authority pathway. That means you don't need to write any exams at all. You just apply to APRA, get your licensure, and then apply for jobs. So the other 2 pathways, which will briefly, this one I just wanted to let you know. So if you are, maybe you're working the UK, the US, and you just want to move here, you don't need to write the exams. At least you've spent 12 months working in these countries, then you don't need to write any exams at all. But if you know that even if you have the GMC registration, but you've not practiced in the UK for up to 12 months, you're still not eligible for the competent authority pathway, please. So these are the two requirements. You should have the licensure, and you should have graduated from this any of the medical schools there, and then you should have worked for at least 12 months of supervised under supervision. Then you're eligible for that. So we'll now talk about the standard pathway, which was the pathway that I used to come here. And the standard pathway is for doctors that are not eligible for the competent authority pathway. And yeah, you have to sit for the AMC exams. There is the AMC 1, which is an MCQ exams, and there's the AMC 2, which is a clinical exams. So the AMC 1 is the exams that many people don't understand, and because of that wouldn't want to take the risk because it's the most expensive compared to the other MCQs, either the PLAB 1, the USMLE, the MCCQ. This is more expensive. When I wrote mine, it was around 3,200 Australian dollars thereabout. Now it's been reduced to around 2,900 plus. So that means it's going to cost you just to pay for the exams will cost you around 3 million. So for an exams that you really don't know much about it, the materials to use, how to prepare, where to write the exams, the time frame. Nobody wants to take this kind of risk at all. And another thing about the exams is that, unlike the other ones, it's a computer adaptive exams. That means that when you're sitting for the exams, both you and the computer don't know how the exams is going to end. The only thing the computer knows is the first question that they are going to ask you. So that means that what usually happens is that when the first question comes, if you do well, like you answer it correctly, the next question will be a bit more difficult than the initial question. If you answer no, if you answer question two correctly, question three will be slightly more difficult than question two. If you answer it correctly too, question four will be slightly more difficult than question three. That means that it gets increasingly more difficult when you're doing well. Now, if it happens that you get well up to question six, and unfortunately you didn't get question six correctly, question seven will be slightly easier than question six. If you don't answer question seven correctly, eight will be slightly easier too. So that's how it goes. Then if you eventually get, let's say maybe question 10, 11 becomes a bit more difficult. So that shows you that the exams, each of the answers does not carry the same weight or the same mark. So most times, my experience, and for those that I've discussed with that had written the exams, is that when you feel stressed, like the exams is quite difficult, it's likely that you did well because it gets increasingly difficult. But these are things that you also have to understand about the exams. The second thing about the exams is that, unlike other exams, you cannot go back. So that means if you answer question one, question two, and you move to question two, you cannot go back to question one. You cannot. You cannot go back to question one. But yeah, good night. Thank you. Bye bye. Sorry, my my daughter just walked in. It's 9:30 here, and she doesn't want to sleep. I apologize. So that's it. That means that if you're answering the questions, you have to be very sure before you move to the next question because you cannot go back. You can only proceed. You cannot return. And there are like 180 questions, yeah, that you answer within 3 hours or so. So you also have to know how to manage time properly and also answer your questions correctly because you cannot go back. Unlike the other exams, I'm someone that the way we did our MCQs in Nigeria, especially with the negative markings, how I develop my strategy is that I usually start with the questions that I know the answers reflexly. So anything that will just stress me or make me think, even if I know the answer, I will leave them and answer those ones that I know very well first. When I finish those ones, I count how many I've answered to give me an idea of what I need to, how much risk I have to take. Then I'll go with the ones that that I know the answers. I just need to think about them. When I finish those ones, then I'll now count again to see whether I can take more risks or not. Negative marking. And it's something that I used it's the same approach I used for a couple of exams I've written so far. I've written the SMLE exams, as the Saudi Medical Licensure exams, and I've written the MRChem exams. I used the same approach. I also wrote the PLAB exams too. So I used the same approach, but AMC is a bit different like that. So this is something that you should keep in mind. With the way the exams is, this is part of the reason why many people really don't want to take the risk, and they aren't people to guide you properly when it comes to that. So after you've written your AMC1 and you're successful, it's usually marked over 500 and the pass mark is 250. It doesn't matter if you get 250 or you get 499. Once you've passed, you've passed. Job employers usually don't really look at the scores to determine who they're going to employ or not. They just look at your CV most times. And if you have the experience that they require, they will usually want to employ you, especially places that need doctors as much. So that's the thing about the standard pathway. When you pass the AMC1, the good thing is that till date, they still take people with just the AMC1. You don't need to sit for the AMC2. And that's what happened to me. I came in here with just the AMC1. I am here to write my AMC2. It's part of what I'm going to do before the year runs out, because I need that to get my general registration. Then with the AMC2, the AMC2 is like the other ones, is clinical based exams, and it's usually written in Melbourne here. That means you have to come here to write the exams. It's around that 3,000 plus Australian dollars too. So once you write that one, it gives you an advantage too. But you can start applying for jobs with just the AMC1. AMC2 confers an advantage to you. Another good news is that for people that have written the PLAB, you could skip the AMC2 and replace it with your PLAB 2. So they consider that too. So if you just write the AMC1 and you already have the PLAB, you don't need PLAB 2. You don't need the AMC2. You could just use your PLAB 1 and PLAB 2 to get your general registration. So that is it for the standard pathway. You must write the exams because you're not from a competent authority pathway, and so you would have to sit for the exams. And it's for every doctor, including consultants. But then the consultants have two ways that they could come here. They could come here via the standard pathway, or they come via the specialist pathway. It's just that for the standard pathway, most times you wouldn't get a job as a specialist. You only get it as maybe at most a registrar. So that is it. Now let's talk about the specialist pathway. So yeah, as I stated here, you write the MC2, AMC, CAT, MCQ, and then you do the clinical assessment and supervised practice. So the clinical assessment will be the AMC2. They could take the PLAB too. And then there are some hospitals that provide something called a work-based assessment. Those hospitals are not much. So instead of doing the AMC2 or the PLAB, you could work in those hospitals and you pay a certain amount of money that over a year they will just be supervising you. They will assess you, and after that you could get your general registration. But then when you have done this first two, you come here to start practicing under limited registration. And then after you've now completed your supervised practice and you have the AMC2, the PLAP 2, or you've done the work-based assessment, you can now get your general registration. So we'll now talk briefly about the specialist pathway, which is specifically tailored for Nigerian consultants and specialists with recognized postgraduate qualifications. So the thing about the specialist pathway is that they will compare you first to the consultants or the specialists that are here in Australia. They want to see how your training and experience or exposure is close to those of their specialists here. So if you're a cardiologist in Nigeria, they will all compare both your training and experience to a cardiologist that was trained in Australia. The closer you are in these things, the more suitable or the more appealing you are to them. So normally what you do, I have a video on that in which I explain the details, is that you apply to the direct colleges. There are different colleges of specialists here, like the College of Surgeons, College of Physicians, College of Psychiatrists, Radiologists, and the rest. You just apply directly to the colleges and submit whatever you need to submit. If you go through my channel, I talked about that in detail. So if you're already a specialist and you believe that your training and exposure is something that is enough to enter here, you could just go through the specialist pathway and compare. So normally there are three categories that you fall into. Is either you're substantially comparable. Some people, substantially comparable is the highest rating you can ever get, which means that you are very close to a specialist that is being trained in that country itself. And normally you require at least 12 months of supervised practice. Within those 12 months of supervised practice, you would need maybe some upscaling or not. You could need 6 months of upscaling, 12 months of upscaling, 18 months of upscaling, or 24 months of upscaling. No, substantially, you just need 12. Sorry, I mixed that up. You just need 12 months of supervised practice. You don't need any upscaling at all. Is the partially comparable now that need upscaling? So if you're not substantially comparable, partially comparable means that there are gaps, but you have a decent level of both training and exposure. So for the partially uncomparable is when you need the upscaling. You could need 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and 24 months. The shorter the duration of the upscaling, that means that the better your both training and exposure is normally. So if you can have shorter upscaling, it makes you more marketable than those that will need maybe 18 or 24 months of upscaling. Then the non-comparable means that there are significant gaps, so you cannot come in here as a consultant. And that means that you have to come as a registrar or even a medical officer, depending on how it is. So if you're a specialist and you know that your training is not really uh, you've not had enough of this Western exposure. What some people do is that some hospitals might have an agreement with Western hospitals in which they send some of their doctors to go and just have some degree of training or exposure. That helps. Some other doctors just try and find ways that they could just go to these other hospitals, maybe in South Africa, the UK, the US, just to have this exposure and use it eventually too. So all these things help to a large extent. So if you're a specialist and you want to come and you believe that you have substantial training and exposure, you could just try the specialist pathway. It's very expensive. So that means that if you're not sure, don't just waste your money and do that one. Just come via the standard pathway. Maybe work as a registrar for a while, get into the training, and it's just a matter of time till you would get your job. So that helps. We've talked about that. We've talked about the competent authority pathway, and then we'll talk about the transition highlights. Let me see how many. Yeah, we have just two more slides to go. So the timeline for your transition is this. This helps to a large extent. You can use about, this is not fixed. It's just a fair and very decent, what will I say, fair, a decent calculation of what would take you. You could use about your first month, first to third month, to just set up your Epic and AMC online accounts and submit your credentials for primary verification. It will take you at least a month most times. It could be shorter than that, but it will take you, if you have the money, the earlier you start, the better. Then to prepare for your exams, I will tell you that give yourself at least 6 months. You could do it earlier than that. You could prepare within a shorter time. It's possible. Someone like me, I took only 3 months to prepare for my exams. And the reason why it was that short was because I was still in Saudi Arabia. Someone's mic is on. It's like there's flowing water or something like that. So, so, and I was in Saudi Arabia. I was only going to get my Saudi Arabia. You don't go out of the country without an exit or entry visa being given to you by your employer. So it was around the third month that I was going to get that visa. So it was my window, and I had to just work with that. It was a very aggressive form of preparation. It stressed me, it really stressed me. I had to even go and see an ophthalmologist for review and an optometrist for refraction, optician for a refraction of my glasses too, because man, it was excruciating. So give yourself time to really understand these exams. Then you now, after you've passed, you could start applying for jobs, and hopefully you get one. The job market isn't really easy. There are people that have written these exams before me that are still looking for jobs. Some we wrote at about the same time, some shortly after me, and they're still looking for jobs. So as there are still people that are coming here. So there's strategies towards this. There's a WhatsApp group that I am in, that usually majority of the people there are Nigerians that share tips on how to go about this. But most times it's best to apply in regional areas that need doctors. So that helps. And then after you've gotten a job, you now do your APRA registration. When you finish that one, you now apply for your visa and move. By the time you move now, you come and start your 12 months of supervised practice. And if you have your AMC2, your PLAB2, or you do the work-based assessment, you can now transition to general registration. So another thing about this is one of the key strategies for the success, is that you have to pass your English exams early. This is usually dicey because many times uh, many hospitals are also interested in seeing that you've passed your English exams. So one good thing about Australia is that it's not as strict as the UK, that just wants you to either pass the IELTS or the OET. These are the only two English exams the UK recognizes. Australia also recognizes English tests like TOEFL and PTE. So you could use either of them to get a job here. You could also use the same English to register for your APRA, and then you could use it for your visa too. So, but APRA wouldn't take or recognize any English test that is older than 2 years. And so you have to make sure that that's one dicey thing that many Nigerians or many IMGs struggle with, is that, okay, if I write this English test now, what if I don't get a job before the English expires also? But most times, uh, except you don't get it right, I don't think that you should be job hunting for over 2 years. It happens, but most times when you start understanding how you should job hunt or hustle, 2 years is, you should get a job in less than 2 years normally. And then it's best to write the exams. I would say it's best to write the English exams. If you haven't written one, write it maybe close to um, after you had passed your AMC. Although many people write it simultaneously, like they prepare for it simultaneously with the AMC exams. If you can do that, it's fine, but it's best to just focus on one exam first. The English might distract you. Some write before. Someone like me, I wrote my AMC in June 2024, and I had already written my OET and passed it. I sat down for the OET in January 2023. So the good thing is I was lucky enough to get a job shortly after that. So I finished my APRA registration before it even reached 2 years. And the good thing about the visa is that visa could recognize English that is up to 3 years. So even you don't need to, it's just the APRA That is usually enforcing the 2 years. But the Australia immigration recognizes English as still less than 3 years old. So that's very important. The another thing is that the scores, APRA mandates a score of B. That was before. OET has changed now. So it's no longer the grade B. It's just that you have to score 360 at least in all of the components. I think so. I've not really read about it now, but things have changed a bit. So, but just know that you have to score at least 360 in all of the domains, which include reading, speaking, listening, writing. Then, or IELTS, you have to score an average of 7.0. Then also target the areas of need. So it's more of the regional and rural areas. You cannot go and be looking for work in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, or Adelaide. Most of the most of the national citizens and PRs are usually working there. Even for them, the competition is very high too. So and they will always prefer the citizens and the permanent residents over you. So the best to do is just look for hospitals in rural or regional areas. They are the ones that usually need doctors because most people don't like to stay in the rural areas. I'm in one of the regional hospitals, and the regional hospitals is even more urban than some of the big cities we have in Nigeria. You get most of your basic stuffs like so it's still fine and it helps to so be very strategic about where you apply to, and then you also seek out the Australian Nigeria Medical Professional Forums. There's some of them, and there are like people like me too that have YouTube channels that I also respond to people. And you could send me an email to I try to respond. Like the Aussie Job Hunt group too. It's a WhatsApp group that for people that had already qualified and you're looking to or you're seeking to look for jobs, you could let us know and we'll add you to the group. I am not the group admin, but we'll go add you to the group. And there are a lot of valuable, very, very valuable lessons that it passed through that too. So that is it for now. I think I've briefly touched about the Australian pathway. This is a brief summary. If you go to my channel, I've spoken about each of these pathways in more details, and I also shared some of my very experiences so far as I've moved here to, and I think that will help, including maybe cost implications, how to settle down, other things too. So I think at this point in time, I am done. And I hope this is helpful. So maybe if you have questions, we could take questions and then we see how it goes. So I will just go, I'll turn off my camera and mic for now till the questions come in. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Tabat, for that. That was very detailed and explanatory. Can we just react or type in the chat, send some clapping hands or type in the chat? Thank you to Dr. Tabat. Thank you very much for being available to share this information with us. Like you said, information is scarce out there, but you graciously give us your time and all this information. Thank you so much. We'll be going to the question session now, and I'll be handing over to Dr. Uche to continue that session.
Thank you, Dr. Grace. Good afternoon, Dr. Tabat. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. We really appreciate it. It has been enlightening so far. And I personally, it has been enlightening for me. And I'm sure everyone here would say the same. We are really thankful. I hope you can hear me, sir.
Sorry, I turned off my mic. Yeah, I can hear you. Hope you can hear me. Thank you.
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
All right, so doctors in the house will be taking questions for our chief. Anything you need enlightening on about the whole concept of us being here. We'll be taking questions. If you have any, you can place them in the chat and we'll take note of them. Or just use the mic. Thank you.
All right, thank you so
Good, sir.
much.
I have a question.
Okay.
All right, can
Sorry,
I go ahead?
okay. Yeah, someone should go
All
first.
right, thank you very much. All right,
All
sir.
right.
All right, so I'll go first. So thank you very much, the organizers, Internal Medicine Interest Group. I really appreciate this program. And I also want to say a special thank you to Dr. Tabak for that beautiful and amazing, insightful presentation. Thank you so much, sir, for the time. I really, really learned a lot. So I have three questions and one particular comment or request. All right. So my first question is looking at this whole processing exam. So plus um, visa and the the flight ticket and minus it, what would probably be the approximate total price of this processing from the registration to the end of everything when you travel down there? So plus and minus the transport. My other question is, there is this thing I've heard about an Australian pathway that it's easier when you've done AMC Part 2 to get a job, that it's easier for you to get a job when you've completed AMC2, that it's kind of difficult if you've done just AMC1 alone. Please, I would like you to help us clarify that. And you also mentioned that, so my third question, you've also mentioned that you've written licensing exam for Saudi Arabia, PLAB, and maybe others. So I would like to know, based on your experience, aside the modality of the exam, where would you rate AMC? Would you say it's the hardest exam? In fact, considering an average medical graduate from Nigerian university, medical graduate, would you say this exam is very hard for a Nigerian or moderate, or probably, I just need a comment regarding that, probably for reassurance. And lastly, this is my comment and this kind of a request. You mentioned a group chat. I'm very excited you mentioned that. I would love to be on the group chat. I would like to, one thing we need when we are about to do this, and because I've been keen on Australia. I'm Matthew, by the way. I'm sorry if I didn't introduce myself. My name is Matthew. I'm a final year medical student at Ambrosali University. So I would really, at this point, at the point when we want to start the process, and would really need someone to connect to. It's been really hard to get even senior colleagues from this institution that is practicing in Australia already. So would need mentorship. We need someone to ask some questions, some just as you mentioned before. So it would be really great to probably get your email, your WhatsApp number, or belong to the group. Thank you very much, sir. Again, I really appreciate.
Okay. Thank you for these questions. I believe they're going to help a lot of people. And I'm very excited that you're thinking about this while still a medical student. Many of us, we schooled in the north. I schooled in the north, and when I was schooling, then the north wasn't really a place that many people thought about Japa as much. We had a few colleagues that thought about that, but it wasn't as popular. Many of us just wanted to do residency and stay. So I get very excited seeing that medical students are considering this. That helps you to be focused very well, especially when you start house jobs and the rest. So to answer your questions, for the cost, roughly, I had done a video on that, on how much it cost me to come. And it was coupled with the fact that I have three daughters. So that would be very expensive compared to if you move in as a single person. But the exams, roughly, let's say setting up your AMC portfolio, I've talked about that, will cost you around 700K, thereabout. Then your the epic verification will cost you maybe, let's say, around 500K. So that means for the verification alone, it should cost you around 1.2, thereabout. And the exams itself is, let's say, nearly 3 million. So that would be around 4.2 as it is. And then for the countries you're going to write, the closest we have now is Kenya. And this came up recently because when I was writing the exams, the Kenya center wasn't set up. So I wrote mine in India because India was the closest country to Saudi Arabia. So Kenya, you can write the two African countries, you can write the AMC1 exams. Kenya and South Africa. But then there's a center in London. There are centers scattered all around the world. It's Pearson VUE that usually hosts the exams, but it's not in all the Pearson VUE centers that they usually write the AMC1 exams. So you have to go through, depends on where you want to write the exams, maybe the ease of getting the visa, the cost of transportation too, because sometimes because the country is close to you does not mean it's the cheapest. There might be no direct flight to the country. Some of these African countries are like that. So you might have to take a flight, go outside the continent before coming back to. So you weigh that and factor in maybe accommodation and feeding too. So with that, within that figure, now with the place to right now. It doesn't, I can't give you an actual figure. It's something that you might have to calculate. Then after that, you apply for your jobs. You don't need anything to apply for your jobs, but with the you have to sit for the English exam. So depending if you want to do the IELTS or the OET, depends. You add that too, and then the APRA registration costs you around 2,080 Australian dollars. So that's maybe let's say around 2.1, thereabout. You add that, I'm adding the certain figures. So 4.2 plus 2.1 will give you around 6.3. And then the visa is around 3,000 plus. So let's say for you as a single person, it might cost you around, let's say 13 to 15 million to come here, and you would, depending on whether your hospital will provide you an accommodation or not, you might have to look for an accommodation before coming and everything. So to be safe, I would tell you to keep around 17 to 18 million for that. 18 million for that. If you're a single person, if you're married, depending on your family size, it will be more than that. So if you're married and you have kids, or you're married, your spouse is going to be part of the people too, you should start planning for nothing less than 30 million. So it's pretty expensive. I can tell you that it's pretty expensive, but trust me, it's worth it. So I hope that helps with the question concerning the rough estimate. I gave more details, a bit more details in one of my videos. That would help. So you could go through that to give you a fair idea about that. Then, yeah, your second question about getting a job more easily when you have your AMC2, that's true. It's easier for them to consider someone that's passed the AMC2, both AMC1 and 2, over someone that just passed the AMC1. So, but what I'm trying to say is that you could still get a job with an AMC1, with just the AMC1. But you having the AMC2 confers an additional advantage to you. They will always prioritize those that have the AMC2 over those that have just the AMC1. So if you can write the AMC2, that's good. Please do so. It's possible. People that are not in the country have passed it too. So you can attempt that. The problem is that it's usually expensive. Getting a visa to come here might be quite tricky, and the exam is still something that is unknown. I'll come out proper. Okay? I will just come out. This is personal. This is very personal. So don't follow me. I'm just saying this based on observation. I'm not telling you to do what I say. But I decided to, for my general registration, despite passing the AMC1, decide to get my general registration via the PLAB route. Because while I'm here, I'd had a discussion with people that had written the AMC2, both those that passed and those that didn't pass. And no one could really tell me what they did right or wrong, in a sense. So for me, that doesn't really help much when it comes to preparing for the exams. And so that's why I just decided to go via the PLAB route, because at least there's an established way that I could go about it. So I knew which materials to use to prepare for a PLAB 1, and I know which materials I'm using. I'm currently preparing for PLAB 2. I'm writing it by the ending of September. Uh, God willing. So that's the pathway I decide to. Now, this is personal. Those that are passing the MC2 don't have two heads. I am sure of this is because I have the PLAB route that I decide to follow it. If not, I'll sit down for the MC2 and I will pass it. I have to pass it. So it's possible there are people that have passed it from outside and they don't have two heads. So if you want to do that, that's good. If you have the PLAB 2, it confers an additional advantage to you too with just the AMC one. So I can tell you that true, it's true. If you have the AMC 2, you are more preferred than someone that just has the AMC one. If you have the PLAB 2, you're more preferred than someone that just has the AMC one too. So depending on how you go about it. Then you asked about rating the AMC to the other exams that I'd written. So I've not written the USMLE. I cannot tell you anything about the USMLE. I've not written the MCCQE, so I cannot tell you anything about that. I've had people that had written the exams. But one thing I can tell you is that the AMC2, AMC1 exams is not difficult. It's just tricky. It is very tricky. I can assure you that it's tricky. I remember when I was preparing for the exams, when there's a question and then there are five options, you choose the best, the one that fits the most. And some of the answers, some of the options might look very random till you start going through the explanations and you can just see something that one sentence or one word that they change in the main question could make any of the answers to be the right answers or the right answer. So that means that AMC can use one question and just develop different answers by just changing something. So, because you saw a question that might just be like maybe they started with a 32-year-old man came with so presentations, and you just assume that, no, it's this one. You have to be careful. Trust me, it is a very tricky exam. It is an extremely tricky exam, but it's not difficult. So it's not something you just cram. The another thing is that while you're preparing for the exam, you have to study using the AMC guidelines or use the RACGPs, the Royal Australasian College of General Practitioners. Those were the sites that I use. That means that the answers must come from the Australian body itself or the Australian Therapeutic Guideline, the ETG. Uh, it's these are the standard Australian stuff because they have their own peculiarities that is different from the UK and the US. So your answers must come from Australian sources. It might be right somewhere, but the Australians they have their way of doing things. So that means that I usually tell people, even if you've written other exams, as much as medical knowledge, medicine is a universal language, it's a universal knowledge. Every place has its peculiarities, and Australia does have their peculiarities too. So you have to be careful when it comes to the exam. So that's why I say you shouldn't rush it. You have to unlearn whatever you learned before and just absorb it. Even if they tell you, like, let's say your name is Moshood, and Australia I say, no, your name is not Moshood, your name is Mahmoud. Just accept it. Just learn their thing. If you are sitting there and fighting and saying, no, this is how to do this thing, you're gonna fail and you've spent plenty money to write that exam, so it's not worth the risk. So what I'll tell you is that it's not hard, it's just very tricky, and you could easily fail, you could easily pass depending on how you take your time. And because of the structure too, how it's a computer adaptive exam, so it's very dynamic. Nobody can tell you this how your exams is going. You can write the same exams twice, and I have a colleague that is working with me here. She wrote it three times before she passed. The first one, she wrote it while she was heavily pregnant. No, after she was heavily pregnant when she wrote the exams. Like she gave birth a few days before the exams, and she got 249. And that's a very painful way to fail your exams. So she now started preparing again. This time around, she was a bit more relaxed and feeling like, okay, since with all this stress that I went through, it was just my 1 mark. I'm sure I'm going to pass this one. When she sat for the second time, she didn't even get close to 249. She got way lower than that. And that demoralized her. But the good thing is that the third time she wrote, she passed, which was quite encouraging. So it's very tricky, I can tell you that one. And because you can also proceed and cannot go back, you have to be careful to know how to manage time because time management is the very important thing. So what I would tell you is that please, when you're preparing, I don't advise anybody, despite the fact that it's an MCQ exams, I don't advise anyone to prepare alone. Join groups. There's also a WhatsApp group that we initially created. It started with a few of us that were in Saudi Arabia then, and there was a GP, a family physician, a Nigerian family physician that had the relevant materials. It was the first thing, making sure that we had the relevant materials to study with, because people before us didn't really help when it came to materials. And so the first set of people that wrote using the material pass were like, these are the materials to use. And then so far so good. Most people that follow that pathway have passed too. But one thing about the group is that they usually don't accept people that have not at least opened an OAMCA portfolio, because they have a problem with people just coming out of ginger and they're not participating. So when you open an AMC portfolio, you are supposed to write the exams within 12 months of opening the portfolio. So it shows a degree of commitment, and you can also be participating, joining the discussions. And when the time comes for you to present, you also present. That helps many people too, because if you don't do these things, we notice that then people just come and then leave because they don't want to join again. So the when my email is usually on my website, I could share it on the group. You could reach out to me too. I will share it with Dapo. He has my number. I'll just share the email and then you could reach out to me and we could chat more about that. But normally that preparation group is, you have to open at least the MC account before you do that. Then for the chat group for the migration, unfortunately it is the same. They only join people that have at least passed the AMC one. So it's not like a mentorship. It's like a group of people just sharing ideas. Okay, there's campaign here, this to go about it. People just share and go. So it's not really a forum that someone just sits down and mentors you. So, and that's why I also do. I had just shifted my focus on just making sure that I share enough that I could about the Australian pathway to you. It helps people prepare too. But anyway, whatever you need, just will share my email. I know the people already have my email. You can also directly comment. I usually answer all the comments on my videos because that's the whole point of things too. So that should help you. And when you're ready to write the exams, to reach out to me and let's see how it goes. So I hope I've answered that. Let's go to the next question. Sorry.
Thank you very much, sir. And I'm wishing you success in your part two preparation. Thank you so much. That was very insightful, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much,
thank
Dr. Talbot. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Talbot. Dr. Harry, House Officer in Edo Specialist in Benin. So I want to firstly appreciate IMGN and you for gracing this venue. And also, probably I'm the co-founder of IMGN and also the ex-president. So for this series, for the Japan series, these have been one of the most enlightening and one of the hardest to ever comfort. As you said earlier, finding people from Australia to talk to people about their pathways has been very, very difficult. So really appreciate. Now, for my questions, I would like to ask, I think, three questions. My first question is for the AMC one, for those that wrote the AMC one, you said something like, oh yes, it's a common knowledge that it is not easy to get it through the AMC one. Please, I want to ask, like, what are the key things that someone should be looking at towards while writing the AMC one, like things that can boost their CVs? Is it? I know some countries, like if it's UK, they may prioritize researches. USA prioritize age of graduation. They want you as fresh as cool. Like, what are the things that Australia may prioritize that may that you can merge with your AMC one to give you an edge in getting a job? That was one. Two, also, what are your advice for present medical students and early career doctors at this stage that have decided that, oh, they want to take the Australia they want to take the AMC pathway, they want to take the Australia pathway? What are your advice during this period that they should be gearing towards? Is it that for the early career doctors, should they focus more on gaining skills? Should they try on going for conferences? Things like that. Then my I think my third question is mainly about the specialist, not specialist pathway per se. It's mainly about getting into residency in Australia. Yeah, during the course of the conversation or the meeting, you were talking about getting a job, getting a job. I don't know the scope of the job an AMC1 can get you? Is it like you are going to be like a GP or a medical officer there? Like for someone that wants to be a cardiologist, that want to be a nephrologist, like how long will it take? What are the scope in getting into specialized practice in US, in Australia? I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Harry, thank you for these questions. So let's just go straight to the point. For the key things that you need when you're looking for a job is that um, one thing I've learned, especially when job hunting, is that hospitals advertise for different roles. And most times, most of our doctors come in as either medical officers, which are called RMOs, or HMOs, depending on the region, or you come in as a registrar most times. For those wanting to do internship, it's usually difficult because they have their own graduates. They also have hospital countries that they've already agreed with to take a couple of their graduates to do internship. So they might not really prioritize you. They're looking for doctors that will come contribute and not doctors that they want to train. So you coming as an intern means that you're just being more of a burden than a service provider to them. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but I've not really seen any IMG, especially from Nigeria, come here as an intern you get. Although sometimes you might actually be qualified, but they might just take you as an intern just for the name of sake of intern, but then you're still offering something to them as by in terms of experience and everything. So I would say that the key thing is to know from your level of experience and exposure, look for an appropriate job. You understand? So if you have not had any concrete experience or exposure in ED, you cannot go and be applying for an ED physician or ED registrar or ED HMO now. They cannot look at you. So if you've had the more experience you have, which is another thing, the more experience you have, the more appealing you are. So it's not more of like, unlike the US, the US usually, once you graduate, once you pass the USMLE, by force you must go into residency. So they don't just accept you to employ you and you start offering services. You go directly into training. So they are not hiring you based on those things that you're going to training. So the fresher you are from med school, the more closer you are towards the medical training and everything, and likely the younger you are. So you wouldn't graduate as an old man that might be using a four-wheeler walker, or you'll be having osteoarthritis or taking medications for chronic diseases, and you wouldn't be able to offer much. That's one thing about the UK, but the US, but Australia doesn't really. Age is not really a hindrance. I've seen older doctors that have come here and quite young doctors that have come here too. So, but I would say that you should have at least done your house job. It has some degree of exposure and experience. And if you can, the more years you have in addition to the house job, the more appealing you are. So I would say you should be a bit more particular about what you're looking for. So if you want to do, maybe you want to come here as an ED physician, the more ED position experience you've had, the better for you. If you want to go into the GP training, if you've moved around hospitals in which you've maybe been the family medicine department, or you've done PPs, private practices or hospitals that see all the patients. So normally it's your CV that sells you. And the more experience you've had in these things helps. So your exposure, your experience is very important. What you can do on your own helps to a large extent. Then conferences too help, but they don't usually prioritize that as much as because they want to employ people most time in the clinical setting. So the experiences are very important uh, to a large extent. So I would say that be very particular about where you're working You don't just go to anywhere breeze blows. Be very particular. And then many times again, for some of us that have been in multiple places, we tailor our CVs and our cover letters to highlight certain the positions that we're applying for. So I have applied for an EDHMO, I've applied for a hospital medical officer. So and they are for these two positions, you emphasize different things. So for the EDHMO or ED registrar job, you have to show that you have had a very good experience in ED. You stress that one very well. Now, for the hospital medical position, like I am a hospital medical officer now, it means that I rotate around the various departments. That means that I should show that I've moved around the major departments: medical, surgical, obstetrics, gynecology, pediatrics. So if you show that you've done these things, it also helps. GP, as I've said, maybe you've been in family medicine, or you've worked in private hospitals that you've touched all these things, or you're even in a hospital that you've rotated around. That helps because in GP settings you're going to see different things altogether. So I would say that your experience matters a lot, and the more recognized your hospital is, it matters to you. Don't go and work in one small hospital that nobody knows about. And if maybe you've had some, if you've worked in many of these recognized secondary and tertiary institutions that are renowned, it carries more weight than that, than you working in one small private hospital that nobody really knows about like that, because they will research on their own to find out what's doing. So I would say the key things for job hunt is more of the experience. Conferences, researches confer additional advantages to you. So attend as much conferences as you can. If you have some researches, publish them too. They help you very well. But the experience is what they usually look for the most. So tailor your experience, tailor your applications towards whichever role that you're applying for. Don't go and lie. Don't go and choose a position that passes your power. If you've never done a residency, you don't know much, don't go and apply for a registrar role. Most times they'll take you as an unaccredited registrar, and they will interview you. First, they will see your CV and they will interview you. And what they will ask you, you are going to show yourself that you don't know what you're talking about. They wouldn't give you the job. So be particular about what you want to do. Make sure that you are chasing whatever work you're doing is tailored towards building your CV very well. You can attend many conferences as possible. If you have researches, you can partake in researches. All this is boost further advantages to you too. So I hope this answers the first question. And yeah, it also answers the second question too about medical students and house officers too. Be particular about where you're going to do your house job. That helps very well. That helps you very well. You don't just choose places randomly. And for your house job, one of the mistakes I made when I was a house officer is that I squandered my money. So I was very poor. If you know that you're going to Japan, just be using house job time and be saving money, because it's usually when you have substantial money first. So you save your money to see what you can use it and do in the future. By the time you go to service, you for your NYC, you add whichever money you are having towards doing that. So, but also make sure that you learn the right skills. Be places that I know. One of the things that helped me is that I deliberately chose one of the most or one of the busiest hospitals in Nigeria just to help me. 44 Nigeria Army Reference Hospital. I suffered, but that helped me to know quite a lot that is still helping me till date. So I would say that be very deliberate about where you go and what you do. Build your career, build your portfolio, be updating your CV, and see how far it goes. So then I'll go to the third question, which is about getting into residency in Australia. So the thing about residency in Australia is that you cannot start residency without having the general registration. That means there's no IMG from outside that will just come in directly to start residency. The best you can get is the position of an unaccredited registrar. So that means that you could get a non-accredited registrar in general medicine, in general surgery, in obs and gynae, in pediatrics, in ED, in rehabilitation medicine, geriatrics, those different departments, they could take you as an unaccredited registrar, but you have to have your general registration before you apply for residency. And they usually go through all the various states have their college, their central medical, I'll call it a medical council in which you apply for residency. So you have to have your general registration first. So the thing is this, it doesn't really matter. Many times when it comes to the applications, is that your exposure helps too. So you cannot be someone that just did internal medicine in house job only, and then you come here and you want to do internal medicine if you've not had enough exposure in that. Because part of what they will do is that they will look at your CV, which helps. Then the other thing is that you're going to sit for interviews, and your lack of experience will find you out and you might not get it. So even when you come here, the very good thing about Australia is that you have the opportunity. It doesn't matter. You can be a senior registrar in cardiology and come here and you say you want to do gastroenterology. It doesn't matter. Even while you are doing residency or training here, you could decide to change your mind and say, I want to train somewhere else, and you leave. It doesn't really matter. You will get so far as you know how to go about it too. So that means that if you want to train, you have the opportunity to train. Yeah, truly, you do. And there's some specialties that are a bit more competitive than others. And that's why you also have to be strategic about it. But it doesn't matter. Many times there are various hospitals that offer such positions. Most times you get the ones in the bigger towns, the main towns, having more of those other, especially the sub or the niched specialties, like all these dermatology, plastics, ENT. It's not every hospital that does that. But the regional ones might have limited training, maybe in emergency medicine, general medicine, or so, or psychiatry. And if you want to come here as a GP too, that was even the easiest. You apply and you get plenty options on where you're going to train your thing. So it depends on you. What I can tell you is that just make your exposure or your training your experience very rich. Then you come here and you weigh options properly, because you might discover that what you're doing in Nigeria might not really be what you want to pursue over here. You might find something else that's more appealing to you and you change your mind. But the most difficult thing is coming here. Training is not really as challenging, although the surgical roles are way more competitive than the medical roles, but there are some other medical this that will be a bit more difficult, because you might find out that they only train in the city and positions are quite limited. And the more appealing it is to the citizens and PRs, that means your chances are quite low. So that is it. Mainly, I would say that is it for that. I hope I've answered you concerning that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you, Dr. Tabat. This is Dr. Uche, co-moderator. So before we move on, we have concerns about questions, some people's questions aligning. So we want everyone to ask their questions at a go, then you
Okay,
can answer them.
okay. I think that's better.
Yes, thank you, sir. So, all right,
Okay.
doctors in the house, please, you can ask your questions and Dr. Tabat will answer all of them eventually. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Tabat. Thank you for the informative session. So while doing my little research on the Australian pathway, I came across PESCI. So I was going through it and I saw something like you can do your AMC1, then do the PESCI exams while getting a job. Do the pesky exams replace the AMC2, or are they compulsory for everybody? I really don't know much about the pesky. And also, is it paid for?
Okay, I have noted your question, Navdi. So the next person could ask. I'll just answer all of them at a go.
Um, Thank you to the organizing committee and Dr. Tabas for the insightful session. So my question is, during your early phase of application and entry into Australia, were there any mistakes you made? And can you share what you could have done better? So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, noted. Who has another question?
Hello.
Okay, I think okay, Doc, you can go ahead.
All right. Hello. Good afternoon, Dr. Tebot. Good afternoon, and thank you very much to the organizing committee.
Hello.
This,
Yeah.
my name is Dr. Akubo. I'm preparing for my AMC1 for next
Okay.
month. I just
Oh,
want to ask, please, for applying for the rules, like in your situation, you have done some other exam like the Saudi parts and all. Were you using those in your CV? And do you feel those things gave you a better chance, like for the opportunity to get a job after your AMC1, or you feel just with your AMC1 and your Nigeria experience, you can have something over there to start with? And my second question, please, is concerning the materials. I know you said we have to like join some of the groups to get them. The group I'm currently in is made mostly of Pakistan guys and Indians. I I only joined one that is a Nigerian group. However, it was enlightening, but it was not that serious. So I'm also planning on doing my AMC too. So maybe I'll reach out to you. I'll check your channel to email you for materials. Thank you very much, and I'm very grateful.
no worries then. I'm looking forward to talking to you. Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tabat. So I think I will add my question as well.
Okay.
Concerning the specialist pathway, I
Yeah.
just wanted to know for the substantially comparable, which is the highest class, let me call it that, they would require 12 months of supervised practice, like you said. So I was wondering, would it be in a specific specialization, let's say internal medicine, pediatrics, obstetrics, gynecology, or would it just be general? Would it be general? So I was wondering. Thank you.
Okay. No worries.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for um presentation. Thank you very much, everyone. Um, Now, please, my question is for an ex-career doctor. Um, NYSC, apart from the experience, does he have the other advantage? Does it give you any edge in applying and getting a job in doing one?
Okay.
Thank
No worries. Okay. Noted. Okay. Any more questions?
Just one question.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tabat.
Hey, how are you?
You mentioned the benefits of attending conferences and gaining clinical skills. As a house officer, apart from the financial part, are there preliminaries or just steps, things that one should be doing right now while still trying to, I mean, I'm not planning to take the exam this year or next year, but just things that I can be doing that can really add up and make my experience to be seamless whenever I go in to start up. What and what should I be doing to be prepping myself up and keeping myself up to date? Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, good afternoon, Dr. Taba. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
Please, I just have one question. You mentioned about the AMC 1 and AMC 2. So, my question is, after writing the AMC 1 and trying to apply for job and possibly getting a job, do you still need to write sit for the AMC 2?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Noted.
Thank you so much, sir. So my
No worries.
question, it's about the day-to-day practice over there. How can you compare it, and what are the challenges one should look out for when, if eventually you get a job and you are moving all the way to Australia? How are you going to compare the practice, and what are the challenges people should expect while coming there in terms of the cultural differences and all? Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Noted. Any more questions?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mine is not really a question, but just more or less like a suggestion. I
Okay.
don't know if it would be possible for you to, let's say in the future, have a special group where intending aspirants can join. We don't mind subscribing so we can get this one-on-one mentoring for those that are preparing to write the exam. I know it's going to be a lot on your part, but it's something I feel you should also look towards. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay. So I think now we have about 10 questions. Let me just take these ones. Maybe if questions pop up after that, we could just do that and round up. But let me just answer these ones. The first one is about the pesky exam. So the pesky is for those that want to go into the GP pathway. There are those that just move from outside the country straight into the GP training. And usually you have to do the pesky exams for that. So and you cannot write the pesky exams without getting a job, like a GP clinic offering a job to take you. So you need a job before you can write the pesky exams and then continue with the GP. It's a way of licensure. So with the pesky, you must not write. You could be with them. The disadvantage of the PESC is that you're tied down to just that GP clinic. And if they're training you good, if they're not, it restricts you to a certain extent. One good thing that general registration gives you is that it gives you the ability, it gives you the freedom, the independence. Like as a general, someone with a general registration, you could decide to work anywhere. You're not tied down to anything. Another thing is that with your general registration, you could also apply for PR, for a PR. So, unlike if you come through and just decide to stay with one GP clinic that might decide to keep you for a couple of years before they sponsor your PR and everything. So, pesky is usually for those that just want to move directly into a GP clinic to continue their practice as doctors. And it's best for people that really want to want to become GPs. That's fine. You might need to boycott the AMC too. But then most times, if you want to go into the training, you need the general registration to do that. So uh you could boycott the AMC2 and go and work with the clinic for a while, but you will be tied down to that clinic. So that's why most times, even after writing the pesky, it's best for you to just write the AMC2 and gain your freedom or your independence to do whatever you want to do. Sometimes you might just discover that the GP is not your place. You might have liked it before, but you've seen other opportunities too. So it's best to just write your AMC2 and decide whatever you want to do. So I hope that helps you. Most times, pesky wouldn't save you from writing the MC2, but you could decide if maybe you like the clinic and you want to remain there. You may not need to write the MC2, but the setbacks are not really worth it per se. Then for the second one, the early phase of application and entry and mistakes that I've made. So when I did mine, luckily for me, my own experience is quite unusual. It's very, I would say, atypical. So I wrote my exams in June 2024. My results came out in July 2024. Then it usually takes 4 weeks after you've written the exams for the result to come out. Now it takes 3 weeks. So it's shorter than when I did mine. And then by August, I'd already gotten the opportunity to I had got invited to um, by one of the places that currently I'm working with. I was invited for an interview and I sat for the interview. Luckily, I was successful and I got my job. So by ending August, I'd already gotten an employment letter. So you can imagine, like 1 month after I'd passed my exams, I'd already gotten a job offer, which is very, very atypical because most people don't get it that soon. Most people it takes them a couple of months. And then another thing is that most of the campaigns, there are campaigns that happen. It's like a season where hospitals start recruiting or start advertising for vacancies. And it starts around that June to maybe September, thereabout. So normally, I usually advise people that if you want to really join the campaign, it's best to sit for the exams and pass it around or just before the campaign starts so that you're qualified. You could just start applying for jobs. And yeah, one of the mistakes I made initially, although it didn't cost me gravely, is that you have to know the positions that best suit you and then you apply for them. Also look for regional areas too that help. You don't just go and see that major cities are applying for advertising, go and follow. You're just wasting your time. That wouldn't help. So most times you just ask questions. And I had fewer people to ask those questions. So my hands were very tied then. But now at least with the group, it helps that you ask. And then there are a couple of people that I could also ask about things that I know now in Australia, and that helps to a large extent. People are coming in now, so that also helps. And there's a Nigerian group for Australians that are already here. So it's easier for me to now get certain information that I'll have. But I'll tell you that the best way to approach this is that don't go and be doing things on your own. Ask. When it comes to this Japa thing, information is way more important than money itself. I can tell you that because with the right information, it saves you from a lot of stress. So I was lucky enough that whatever I did didn't really cost me much because I got a job barely a year later, a month later, and I was able to do things. And whatever mistake I made then was just due to limited information because there were fewer people to reach out to. But nowadays, that there are more groups that are coming up that are willing to share information. I'm very happy about that. I can share an experience with you guys that when I was asking about this Australian thing, many of these are Nigerian people abroad. They are not trying. No. We used to hold information very well. So there was this group that I asked I was asking about Australia, and the group admin, in his own kind way, decided to connect me with one other Nigerian doctor that seems to know Australia. It's like he got a job or something like that. When I just sent the guy the DM, to ask him that this I am this person. I want to know about Australia. The next thing he told me is that he's not answering me till I pay him $50. So $50, I can afford $50 now. So I gave him $50. I just dropped. You see this standard pathway, competent authority pathway, and specialist pathway. He just dropped a summary of those things, one chart, and just dropped them. Till date, he never answered any of my follow-up questions. So I know that where I am is somehow, I would say it's a fortunate thing for me. And because of the stress that I went through, that's why I'm quite generous with these things too, based on the knowledge I have and the experience I have to share with people too. So if I had known much, I know I would have done much. But the good thing is that I was fortunate enough that I got a job. And what helped me was that where I'm currently working, there was one of my schoolmates. He's too graduated from UJ. We were friends, although we were not really that close, but then we were schoolmates. You know how med school can be now. You know everybody, you can talk with everybody and everything. So when I found out I was there, I just asked him for some certain information. And luckily, as at that time, the hospital was advertising for this position. So I just applied and he put in some words for me, and that helped. And when the time came for the interview, he was gracious enough to spend time with me and prepare me for that interview. If he had not done that, I would have performed poorly in that interview. So I will tell you that also when it comes to application, by the time you've just gotten your exams, you've passed your AMC1, reach out to me. I'll put you in the group. The people there, they have knowledge, they will share and they will help you to. When campaigns come, people drop all these things. That group is super helpful. So you meet people that know more of these things, people that are way more experienced. I can even tell you that my knowledge about job hunting is limited because I job hunt for just a limited number of a limited duration, and that restricts me. But people that have spent time and have perfected these things are more in the position to help when it comes to that. So I hope I've answered the second question. And the third one was talking about preparing for AMC1, whether my doing other exams has helped. Yeah, I will tell you that my moving outside Nigeria helped me to a certain extent. Yeah, because part of it is that you're selling yourself too. So even if I happen to be in Nigeria, one of the things I also stressed while I was in Nigeria is that despite the fact that I was born in a particular state, and from that particular state, I happen to have moved around whilst in Nigeria. These are some things that score you points when it comes to this Australia, because there's one thing they love about these culturally sensitive people or culturally exposed people too. So me stressing that even while in Nigeria, I happened to school outside Nigeria, outside my state of origin. I also worked in a different place altogether. Then I now moved to Saudi Arabia where I learned about their tradition, learned sufficient Arabic to be able to communicate with my patients. These call you points, but it doesn't mean I have a couple of people that have come here directly from Nigeria. So it doesn't mean it might be an advantage, but it doesn't mean that if you don't have it, you won't get a job. It's just how you package your CV and how you sell it that boosts your chances. Then, yeah, I was licensed in Saudi Arabia. I was licensed in Nigeria. That helped. Another thing that would do that is that you now come and be looking for certificate of good standing from both countries. When you're doing your international criminal check, you need to do in both countries too. So all these things, they are just issues per se. But yeah, I will tell you that me being in Saudi also helped me. The exposure for that helped me to sell myself. But you just sell yourself. With your limited experience, you can amplify it and be like, okay, I've been in this place of work. Even if you've been in one place of work, you can be that this is the reason why I've been in this place. I love it because it provides me the opportunity to be in this. In fact, it can be your selling point too, because most hospitals that want to employ someone that they can be certain that you're going to stay with them for a while. So even if you happen to be in one hospital, you could be like, I was just because this place offers me the opportunity to learn. Despite the fact that I was getting opportunities to work elsewhere, I just decided to stick to these people, and everything it sells. So far as you've gathered the experience in one place, to that sells. If you move around, you'll be like you're trying to explore other things. Because anybody that is just jumping from place to place, they will be like, this person, if we bring him and come, he can come and be jumping from place to place. So I would say it still boils down to how you package your CVs and everything. So yeah, Saudi helped, but it was also based on how I packaged the thing. Me, I ran away because Nigeria was not trying for me. So I saw that Saudi was giving the opportunity and I ran. But then I packaged it in such a way that I made it that no, I had the opportunity to go to the Middle East and do this thing. And Oyinbo people, they like to hear this thing very well. So package whichever experience you've had, just package it properly. That will make you marketable, both in your CV and when you get the opportunity to do the interviews. So, and I'll move to the next question. It's about materials. And yeah, most times these Asian people, all these Indians, Pakistanis, they are the groups to join. No, the problem might just be the cultural barrier or something like that. But those people, they are very serious. In fact, if you want to know about all these job hunts and the rest, those are the groups to join. All these Indian Pakistani groups who are just upcoming. These people, there are plenty here. They have people that are here, people that know things. So I'll even advise you that if you can, even if you have a Nigerian group, go and still be following these Indians and Pakistanis. You get way more updates than you do in Nigeria. So far as the group is giving you whatever you need, you're fine. Trust me, you're fine. When I was preparing for my exams then, I just used the AMC handbook of MCQs, which is a very old book. I think they produced that book in the mid 2000s then. And now many of the protocols have changed, they've been updated. So I just use that one to know the structure of the exams and then to also know uh, the high yield points because most times these questions center around what they are asking. But luckily, there's this e-medicine that has come out now, and this is being prepared by AMC too. And e-medicine subscription helps very well. From me discussing with many people that have written the exams recently, they've said that e-medicine is very relevant too. So if you can do the e-medicine subscription, but for you that you're writing next month, I don't know if you've not started e-medicine, just work with whatever you have. You could decide to check the e-medicine out. That helps too. Then me, I use the MC handbook, I use Amidex, and I use M plus X then. Then we had some few past questions and recalls that we're going through. And there's this Telegram group. During our time, it was Ebru, it was an Indian lady that usually what she does is that somehow she's able to mobilize people that are writing exams for each month. So when they go and write the exam, they'll come and share their recalls. They will share the questions that they met. And then as an entire group, we'll go through the answers and just see. So that helps you to know which questions are recurring more often. But now Ebru left. Abro left, I mean, and then there's a new person, Aru, that does about the same thing too. So anyone that has made up his or her mind to write the exam, you could just reach out to me and we'll see how we go about that too. And especially if you've already opened your AMC portfolio, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll see how much I can help with that. So for you, if the Pakistani group has been helpful, please go with them. You understand? Go with them, use the materials that are there, and yeah, see how it goes too. And I wish you all the best when it comes to that. But if you're not prepared, if you feel genuinely you're not prepared, and that's another thing is to know how many people from the group passed the exams because they might come back and tell you that I've passed or I've not passed. If the pass rate is not too good, uh, you might have to really weigh things properly. But if the pass rate is quite good, please just go ahead with the group. You don't need to be joining plenty things because different groups might have different approaches trying to confuse you in the long run. But please reach out to me. I'm looking forward to you reaching out to me. Then for the specialist pathway,
All right, thank you
for
very much, sir.
No worries. For the specialist pathway, normally specialists, you are already a specialist in a particular area. So that means when you're coming as a specialist, if you're a cardiologist, you're coming as a cardiologist. If you are a nephrologist, you're coming as a nephrologist. You understand? If you are a radiologist, you're coming as a radiologist. You're dealing with that particular specialty. It's just that when you come, that those 12 months of supervision is that some consultants that are already in the country will just supervise you. You don't do things without going through them. They're always keeping an eye on you. You understand? That's it, just to make sure that you're safe. That is it. And they help guide you too. And quite reasonable about, I would say about nearly 50% of all doctors here are IMGs. So they will help you. They understand what you're in. People, the work culture is usually quite nice most times. So you'll be fine. So the supervised practice that you're coming in as that particular specialist, there'll be a consultant that's just overseeing everything for the 12 months before you now have your independence to be doing things without anybody checking up on you. I hope I've answered that. And for the NYC advantage, so it's similar to what I had stated before. Your experience depends on how you polish it. So because someone like me, I didn't do NYC. So I graduated when I was already 30. And me, I didn't want to do NYC. So I quickly applied for exemption, which I was happy. But you see, that time too, that I didn't do NYC helped me because I did some PPs that helped me to a large extent. So even if you don't do NYC doesn't really matter abroad. They don't know about that one. That one doesn't confer any advantage. But it depends on how you sell yourself to. It could be like I did a compulsory national youth service corps in this particular state where I learned this thing. You just package yourself. It's by force, but it can be like I was in a rural area and this is why I did. So just tailor your CV very well. The richness of your CV depends on your experience. So shine it very well. People that have had these experiences could help. And as I said, if you have been in one place, you could also sell it and be like, I just found out that this place was providing me what I needed and they were taking care of me. So I just decided to stay there. Hospital will look at it and be like, this person looks like a loyal person. No? It's like football. There are some people that remain in a club to remain legends. The others are moved based on the opportunities and everything. So depends on how you sell yourself when it comes to that. But I'll tell you that nobody is going to accept you or reject you because of just NYC. When you both person don't know about NYC, especially here in Australia. I am here, I didn't do NYC. They didn't ask for my NYC certificate. So sell yourself properly. The next one is about attending conferences and gaining clinical skills. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, especially for medical students and house officers, just mix, you're going, you want to japa. You have to be very deliberate about what you do. So the richer your CV is, the better for you. You can even volunteer. Maybe some of the seniors are doing some certain researches. You can volunteer to be joining them in that one too. Those things confer, they are like icing on the main cake. The main cake is you are a doctor, you've done your basic rotation like internship, and anything outside that is building on that. So the sweeter the icing or the more colorful it is, the more attractive it becomes. So be deliberate. This is what I want. This is how I go about it. You don't just go and stay in one community village and be doing your village things where you be sitting there and not doing anything really. Someone that has been gaining experiences would have a way richer CV than you. So apart from the experiences, go to places, recognize places that could give you those advantages. And you could also get solid referees. I forgot to mention that. Solid referees. So if you want to do ED, I know I'm talking to physicians here. But now, if you want to do this, like you want to do cardiology like this, and you don't have any cardiologists, recognized cardiologists, you even having a professor in cardiology carries more weight than you having a consultant. So be in places that you also have very tangible referees help you very well. It doesn't mean that if you have a consultant cardiologist, it's still better than someone that is not a cardiologist at all. But you cannot be applying for a particular role without having a specialist in that role. So you're applying as an ED person and you don't have maybe a trauma surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon or an emergency physician, your CV is not going to hold water. And these people, they will ask questions that if that person does not know you, you say you. The person will not say. So their recommendation is quite important too. That's why I would say that please be very deliberate about where you work and whom you work with. Because those people are going to be your referees. They will reach out to your referees. And the more portfolio or rank your referees have, the better for you. So if you're working in a tertiary institution that you could easily reach out to maybe a trauma surgeon, maybe for ED or an ED physician or a cardiologist, whichever one it is, it helps you that you working under one private practice that is a chronic MO that knows you, that person will not help your CV too. So these are the things to watch out for. Look at okay, the experience, and then the people that I'm going to look for that are going to be my referees. Because trust me, if that person doesn't know you, they will know. They will catch you. They will catch both of you. So I hope that helps to use your time and just be deliberate about this. Then yeah, keep on updating yourself. There's something that we call that has been called, not me that called me. There's something called recency of practice. That means that the more recent, like someone that is still working, appeals more than someone that had been working before and then stopped. Because one thing about continuing practice is that you're updated. So um, just try your best to be improving on whatever you're doing. I can tell you that if at any point you stopped practicing, and especially if the gap here is significant, like maybe up to a year or more than a year, they want to know what you did within that 1 year. Maybe you went to school, that helps you too very well. You'd be like, I went to study this, the certificate further boosts your chances. So make sure that you're working, make sure that there are no gaps because they want to know what's happening in between the time you maybe work for a certain time and then for like 6 months you're not working and then you go back again. They want to know what you were doing between those times. And if you were not doing anything that is boosting your CV or anything like that, they will always prefer to take someone that has been working continually. So that means that please make sure that you're building yourself consistently and you're improving yourself because you have to say yourself, your CV is the main thing that you use to catch their eyes most importantly. So that's what I'll tell you. Be quite specific about that. And then the next question about after writing AMC1 and you've gotten a job, yeah, you can start applying for jobs. So it's just your AMC1, and then you prepare for your AMC2. That's fine because you having the AMC2 gives you a better advantage than just having the AMC1. So while applying for a job, you could do that. In fact, even if you get an interview before you write the AMC2, you could let them know that at this moment I'm preparing for my AMC2. They see you as ambitious. They see you as someone that is trying to progress their career. So that helps you very well too. Not someone that just hold the MC1 is just sitting there and relaxing. They like that ginger. They want to see that, they want you to show that you're active, you're working towards a general registration, you're working towards career advancement and everything. So you writing MC2 is a very good thing. If you can afford that and sit for it, please do that. Getting the MC2 gives you a better edge over someone that just has the AMC1. So don't just write the AMC1 and relax. If you can write the AMC2, please go for it. If you can write PLAB, please go for it. That gives you better advantage over the AMC1. So just having the AMC1. So yeah. If you have that in mind, please, I advise you go ahead with that. That gives you a strong edge. The second to the last question is day-to-day practice? That's a very, very, very beautiful question. I will tell you this that the Australian system is different. The setup is different than the Nigerian system. I happen to work somewhere that has, I would say about 90% or 85 to 90% foreigners. The Australian doctors are not much here because it's a regional setting. Most of the Australian doctors prefer to work in the main cities themselves. And because of that, I had support from fellow doctors. When I came in, I was struggling. Yeah, when I came in, there was the orientation, there are some courses you do to help you adapt. Then I started in rehabilitation medicine. And rehabilitation medicine is something that I really didn't know before coming to Australia. In fact, I thought the rehabilitation medicine was for people that are addicts and they're just trying to do them rehabilitation to come out also. It's not that, it's a different department that is for people that maybe have had this, we call it deconditioning. They've been ill for a long time, that their bodies have somehow deconditioned. They cannot really function the way they used to, or they've had some very extensive procedures, or have gone through serious accidents, or maybe a stroke, and somehow it has affected their everyday functioning. So they come in for rehabilitation, where they meet other allied health like physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, dietitians, and the rest. Whereas there are other rehabilitation physicians that also help manage them before they go home. So not they are not sick enough to remain in the hospital, the main wards, like maybe medical surgical wards, but they are not well enough to go home because they can't really function properly. So rehabilitation medicines like a bridge between hospital and home. Is still in the hospital. This is something that I just knew. And then coming here and having that exposure, my first place, I was so lost. What do we do here? How do we go about it? You have to make some certain phone calls to certain people and everything. That really was overwhelming initially. And it could bring out this imposter syndrome. You feel like you don't know, but you actually do. And the IMGs around were very supportive. They helped me. Even with the help, I struggled for a while. Talk more if you're somewhere that you don't have that kind of degree. I was speaking with a pediatrician, a Nigerian pediatrician. She's a pediatrician, oh. She came here via the master's route and got a job eventually. And initially, she struggled too. She struggled. She was being taken as an advanced reg, not as a pediatrician. She was taken as an advanced reg, and she struggled initially because their system is entirely different. So these are things you meet, but just know that everybody that came from outside Australia had gone through this phase. And the good thing is that with every day you spend, you get better. So it might be overwhelming, but eventually, small, even when I was speaking with that pediatrician, then she was overwhelmed too. But after a while, even she started adapting. So it's just a matter of time. It can be challenging, but just know that it's something that you adapt to. As our African mothers used to say, those that do it, it's not as if they have two heads. So that means you can do it. That helps. So yeah, seriously, it's different from the Nigerian practice. I've worked in Saudi Arabia. It's different too. It's even different from people. I've spoken with people in the UK, and they say that Australia has its own peculiarities too. But you are just trust me, you will. There's something about Nigeria and Nigerians that is very good. We're quite adaptable and we're smart people. So trust me, even if you think you're not smart, you are. By the time you come here, you just discover that small trick, you're already doing well. Then for the last, it's not a question, it's a statement and an advice or a suggestion being given by someone about having a special group for like mentoring. Yeah, it's something that I have thought about. The reason why I've not done something like this till date is I don't really have the time to do that. I'm someone that is more of like an all or none kind of person. So I wouldn't want to do something that I'm not as devoted or as dedicated to it. And yeah, I just came in. I have a lot of things on my plate, but eventually I hope on starting that very soon, maybe sometime next year. But because I don't want to be idle, that's why I just try to make as many videos that could answer many of the questions that come across people's minds. So that helps. But yeah, it's something I'm considering. When I'm a bit more settled down, I'll definitely do that. But now I'm just aiming towards my general registration, seeing how I can advance my career sometime next year, early next year. And then definitely I'm going to create that to help as many people as possible. So thank you for that suggestion. That helps. I have answered or have commented on this so far. So if there are any Sorry, if there are any more, we could take them before we round up. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tabat, for all that enlightening answers. We really appreciate them. Doctors in the house, we'd like to know if there's any more questions before we round up. Since there's no question, no
Sorry.
further
Good, af-
question.
good afternoon. Well, I have a question, please. Good afternoon. Hello.
All
Everybody
right, go
can
ahead,
hear you.
doctor.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tabat. Please, the question I have, migrating to Australia is quite expensive, and a lot of us might have to like probably sell one or two properties or take some loans in order to raise up such amount of money. So, and when you're taking a risk like that, the reward you have to be sure that you're getting a good reward. So, I wanted to ask, like, what's the tentative salary structure like for an IMO or a HMO that's newly migrated to Australia with an AMC1? What should we be putting our mind to that? Okay, we can get from this range to this range and something like that. Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Dr. Prosper. I'm a house officer in General Hospital, Equita, Oron, Akwa Ibom State.
Hey, that's a very good question. I was hoping someone would ask this question before, but it looks like everybody was serious and they weren't talking about money. So, but I can see some questions on the comment section. Okay, if anyone can have more questions, you could ask before I answer these ones. Oh, Prosper has asked the question, salary range for LMOs, IMOs or HMOs. Okay. Then Michael asked about material to explain the Australian pathway. Okay, I have noted that. Any more questions? Okay, I think there are no more questions. Let me just answer these two and we call it a day. So in terms of, yeah, it's very expensive. But one thing I mentioned is the fact that it's worth it. I can tell you this is worth it. So for someone that moved from Nigeria to Saudi Arabia, it was an upgrade financially. And moving from Saudi Arabia that seemed to have the oil money to Australia is also another upgrade financially. Somehow, when I moved to Saudi Arabia, I had only a child. My second daughter was being born while we were still in Saudi Arabia. And then my third daughter just before we came here. And so I will tell you that financially, Saudi was good, was decent. I think I was earning around, let's say, Nigerian this thing. If we're going to convert it to Nigerian naira, I was earning around 2 point something. then. And yeah, and but here where I'm working currently, we get paid fortnightly. So it's every 2 weeks and not every month. And that's, trust me, it's very, very reassuring. Bad as it be, you only be broke for 2 weeks. You can manage compared to being broke for a month. That the only time you see money is a month. So that's it. And recently I calculated how much I earn roughly a month, although I'll tell you this, that most times they take you, especially if you're coming as a HMO and RMO in the hospital setting, they take you as a PGY2. The highest they can take you is a PGY3, depends. But if you're coming as a registrar, maybe a bit more than that. And that means that you should have had more experience to be taken as a registrar. You have to defend why they should take you as a registrar. But as a HMO, that's fine. You'll be taking maybe as a PGY2 or PGY3, depending on your degree of experience. But most times a PGY2. PGY1s are the interns. So PGY2, you're a bit above the interns, but then you're the bridge between the interns and the registrars most times. So, and then another thing is that for my guys that are in the GP, I was talking with one of my guys that is currently with a GP. He's even sitting for a PLAB too soon to get his general registration, just start a formal training, GP training. He told me that the least amount it takes per fortnight is around 7,000 Australian dollars. But he works for 6 days in a week, and it's mornings 8 to 5. Sorry, 9 to 5. That's when he usually works, 9 to 5 for 6 days a week, and his take home is around 7,000. That's on a very bad day, and that's because he has made an arrangement with the hospital, with the clinic, that he has a particular cut that he gets for every patient he sees. With his general registration, the cut that the hospital would take or the clinic would take would be less compared to what he's doing now with a limited registration. I wish I had that kind of money. I would have been happy, because mine just ranges between around, let's say, 3,200 Australian dollars per fortnight. But that 3,200 is more than what I was getting in Saudi Arabia. But another thing is that the cost of livelihood here is higher than that of Saudi Arabia, especially the rent. Rent is mad here. If I'm to convert the money that I spend on rent here to what in a year, if I'm going to Nigeria, it's not small estate that I'll go and stay in Nigeria. So rent is mad here. You pay rent weekly, and it's super expensive. So as much as you're making money, some of these things, especially rents, are the things that are killing us here, if not Sabah. But even with that, I can tell you that I've been working since I came here. I'm the only one working. Because my kids are still little. My youngest will be 2 by next month, and the oldest is going to be 6 by the end of the year. So they're still little, and because of that, my wife has just sacrificed to stay and take care of them as they get a bit older. Although she's volunteering a place once a week, as they get a bit older, she'll not get to that. But somehow I have been able to be a bit more comfortable in taking care of the family and also progressing in my stuff, like writing the exams, doing other things too, compared to when I was in Saudi Arabia. For Saudi, it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. So, yeah, I can tell you that as much as it's expensive, it is worth it. You would be in a better place financially, significantly better place than where you are in Nigeria. I'm telling you, it's an upgrade in Saudi, talk more of Nigeria itself. So, yeah, the amount is rewarding. I have done a video. Sorry, I've done a video. You should go live maybe in a couple of weeks concerning that. I broke down how much I'm earning on my salary too, as my salary. So that helps. Then the second question, I hope that helps Prosper. So come to Australia and prosper. Then for the other one about materials that
Thank you, sir.
one could get. No worries. Materials to explain the pathway. The most reliable material is you just go to APRA, AHPRA. is the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency. So it's like our MDCN, but the difference is that APRA is for all the health workers. MDCN is just for Nigerian doctors. APRA is for all the health workers and allied health. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, all of them, they're under APRA. So when you go to APRA, you will see the details. This is the most reliable source you can get information concerning how to migrate. So you go through the doctor's pathway and page, you get the most details there. On my channel, I've spoken about this. I had dedicated a video. In fact, last week I talked about the competent authority pathway. I think next week my video on the standard pathway should be up. But then I spoke about these things generally too. So you can also search on the internet, on YouTube, on how to get this. But if it's material, solid material, I don't think there is. So you can visit APRA website and get the most reliable and up-to-date information about how to migrate here as an IMG. Then you could check out my site to have spoken about this to a fairly more detailed extent that I have done here today. So I think at this point in time, I've answered you guys. And yeah, let me hang my boot here, except maybe there's something you want me to comment on before I disappear.
Okay, thank you once again, Dr. Talbot. I don't think there's any additions. I just want to like to appreciate you, really appreciate the session and everything you've been able to enlighten us on. So I'll hand over to Dr. Ladapo to handle the closing address and we'll call it a wrap. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, can anyone hear me?
Ladapo, can you hear you? Yes,
Okay,
doctor,
thank
we
you.
can hear you.
Okay, so I'd like to say thank you, a very big thank you to everyone who joined the call, the session, and most importantly, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Emmanuel Tabat for giving us his time. This session was very, very enlightening. In fact, I think this has been the most informative session on residency abroad for me. Thank you very much, Dr. Tabat, for giving your time and for giving the information. I'm actually very, very this is actually I'm actually very thankful. The reason why I'm very thankful is because we had earlier reached out to somebody to help us to talk about the Australian party, and she wanted us to pay. So I understand that this is this is actually it's not something we take for granted, and I understand the importance of this. So I really want to thank you again. Thank you again for being accessible. Yeah, I think that's also very key. So for any of us that want to know more information about residency in Australia, we can check Dr. Taba's YouTube channel. The link has been posted on the chat. I'll also send it to the group chat. So for anybody who wants to know more about these pathways. Then also we'll be having other residency pathways coming up later this year. So everybody should stay tuned. Then also the recording for this session will be sent across the group chat and the other necessary materials from Dr. Sabat. Thank you again, everybody, for joining this call. And again, thank you very much, Dr. Sabat. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Hey, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Talbot.